Just having a listen there to Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari as the pit crew watches on. And we're just about ready to return you to regular commentary.
Lap 20 of the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Michael Schumacher leads Juan Montoya with the margin which before the first round of pit stops just a few laps ago was 4.9 seconds is now down to 2.7 seconds. The changes which Ted described to us have certainly made a difference to the handling of the BMW Williams of Juan Montoya. He's much happier as Barrichello makes an adjustment there on his steering wheel as he goes down the straight, start-finish straight. And well, certainly Montoya is a lot more pacey in this middle stint of the race. Barrichello dropping away from him now. He's 3.7 seconds behind the Williams driver. Raikkonen, he's in touch, 5 seconds behind Barrichello, but just over 11 behind race leader Michael Schumacher. And David Coulthard is shadowing his teammate.
So whether it was the change of front wing, taking a little bit of front wing out to dial out some of the oversteer Montoya was talking about, or whether he just prefers this set of tyres, you do get fractionally different feeling and balance and grip level on the tyres as Baumgartner pits from 14th in the Jordan. But whatever it is, Montoya's just completed 3 consecutive faster laps than Michael Schumacher. And suddenly, in this phase of the Grand Prix, it's Montoya on the offensive. There's your leader. The gap now is 2.5 seconds, so that's 4 consecutive laps. In this phase of the race, then, Montoya is going to close Michael down. And Louise is with Cristiano D'Amato.
Cristiano, what happened there? Was it a puncture?
Difficult to say exactly what it was. Definitely it was something on the left rear tire, obviously, but it's difficult to say if it was a puncture or because of the incident on the first lap, maybe ran over some carbon fiber piece. Difficult to say. We have to wait until the car comes back to check the tires properly.
Pretty nasty place for it to happen.
Yeah, there wasn't a very good feeling, but at least didn't crash anywhere. That was lucky on that.
Pleased to see him one piece.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic voice that guy's got. It's like a Brazilian samba dance, isn't it? It lilts up and down, goes all over the place. I could listen to that all day. Unfortunately, he'd rather be out there on the racetrack racing, and that was, as Louise said, a particularly nasty incident for D'Amato. Big puncture, around 200 miles an hour down the main back straight into the Parabolica. But luckily, he's okay. Montoya is pushing hard. Rubens Barrichello is pushing hard to try and catch him, but he's falling still off the back of Montoya, and this is a real game of cat and mouse between Ferrari and Williams. And with all that's gone into this Grand Prix, the build-up to this Grand Prix, Martin, with the Ferrari launching a protest against Michelin tyres used by Williams, McLaren, Renault, etc. through the summer to such fantastic effect, and the change of the way that the FIA is going to enforce the tyre regulations. They'll be measuring tyres now at the end of this Grand Prix. That contact patch you see at the front tyres, the bit that's in contact with the ground, that's where the controversy has been about. And well, we'll see at the end of the Grand Prix. Hopefully the new Michelins are in conformity. Jeff Willis is joining us again, technical director of the BAR team. Jeff, you were talking about getting ahead of Olivier Panis and looking at the timing screens. You're 7th now with Villeneuve. Panis is 8th. It seems to work for you.
That's right. You can see the difference. That Jack was able, by being in front of Jensen, to run 1 extra lap. We had to stop Jensen first, and that enabled him to jump Panis. So we're happy with 1. We'll have to see what we can do with getting past Panis.
Jensen's just done a very slow lap, a 1:29.9. Any ideas what that's about, Jeff?
We have heard he has a problem with second gear, but we've got to confirm that.
Okay, well that's quite a bit slower, isn't it? So that seems like you might have a few gremlins developing there.
He lost it all in the first sector, yes. We need to see where that is.
Well, let's say there's no too many problems. Just looking at the stops of Williams and Ferrari, Jeff, what do you conclude? Who took on how much fuel, and how far apart are they going to be for their second stops, do you think, Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya?
We think Michael's going to stop about 2 laps later than Montoya, probably lap 34 rather than lap 32, according to our calculations.
So he's looking pretty strong at the moment, then?
I would think so, yes.
OK, thanks for joining us, Jeff. We'll speak to you again a little bit later on after the second round of pit stops. Well, he thinks that Schumacher's in the box seats. Certainly looks that way at the moment, but Montoya's not letting him get away.
It's not over by a long way, though. They've just the 3 of them, Michael Schumacher, Montoya, Barrichello, just all lapped within 100th of a second, the 3 of them together. Nothing but between them. The gap's still 2.4 seconds back to Montoya. I can't quite understand the McLarens. They're really hurting at the moment. They're now back some 7/10 of a second off the pace. There's Raikkonen. They both had a bad lap a while back, clearly in some traffic. Coulthard too. He's falling a bit back from Raikkonen now, 4 seconds adrift. So at this stage, for some reason, the McLarens, hopefully we can go and, although McLaren don't give too much away to our pit crew, our F1 ITV team, but clearly McLaren's not working well at the moment, James.
No, indeed not. Well, the margin on the grid between Michael Schumacher and Juan Montoya was 5/100ths of a second, the time it takes to blink an eye, literally. And he went close, or closer still. The last lap, they were 1,000th of a second apart in their pace. That is the level of intensity of competition at the front to win this World Championship, and in the short term to win the Italian Grand Prix. We ride on board then with the reigning world champion leading at Monza in front of over 60,000 very passionate Italians who've come here not just hoping for victory but expecting it, carrying the hopes of a nation on his shoulders. It's been a rough summer for the Ferrari team, but judging by their performance yesterday and again here today, they certainly look as though they're back. But Martin, there's a lot of people say it's important for Schumacher to win this race this weekend because Williams are expected to be quite a bit stronger in 2 weeks' time at Indianapolis.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we all thought they would be stronger here in Monza, although, of course, Ferrari did have a very solid test last week. And I think the Michelin teams have definitely been slightly destabilised by having to come up with that new tyre last week instead of fine-tuning their car. But I tell you what, Michael Schumacher looks an awful lot more comfortable and less near the ragged edge than this man Montoya. Montoya giving it absolutely everything, and super speed there through the exit of Ascari. But at the moment you do sense that it's easier for Michael than Juan Pablo.
When you say easy, you mean the car is handling better for him, it's under him more?
Yeah, well, you just watch him going into the chicanes. He's launching it into the chicanes, catching it as it's sliding on the way in and really wringing its neck. And it's down to 1.8 seconds now, the lead, so it's working. But he knows he's got to do that. He lost out in the first part of the Grand Prix. He didn't make it past Michael, that brilliant attempt down into the second chicane. But then he had the wrong setup on the car, but now he's got his chance. Ted is down in the pits.
Yes, and it's bad news, I'm afraid, from BAR. We heard that Jenson Button had lost second gear. He's now lost another gear. They think it's fourth. The bad thing is that the team reckon that this is actually part of a larger problem, whether that's hydraulics. They're not telling me, but it is part of perhaps a race-ending problem. We'll keep you posted.
Losing one gear is very careless. Losing two is absolutely, but nothing he can do about it. We saw him being passed there, and the problem with these sequential boxes, where you just we've got an auto upshift, it has to pass through all the gears. So you can't. In the old days, when you had a stick shift, you could, as you often had to do at Monaco when you lost a gear or two, you could protect the gearbox. Now you can't protect the gearbox anymore.
Lap 25 then, Michael Schumacher, 1.8 seconds now only, the margin ahead of Juan Montoya. There you can see it. The Colombian is closing down. That last lap, half a second he took out of Michael Schumacher's lead. Barrichello third, Raikkonen fourth, Coulthard is still fifth, having a quiet afternoon but still scoring important points and protecting his teammate ahead of him. And as Ted was predicting, Jenson Button, and right on cue, there he is, coming into the pits. And that's a shame for Jenson, after such a strong qualifying performance, to have to come in. But nevertheless, teammate Villeneuve still looks, at the moment, OK for 2 World Championship points. He's in 7th place, just behind Marc Genet.
So finally then, Raikkonen has got onto the leader's pace. He's now 13.6 seconds behind in 4th. Coulthard still struggling. We think they fueled him a little bit longer, a longer stop. But that is Montoya hacksawing away at the wheel, back end bouncing, engine on the rev limiter as he's got his foot buried in the floor, trying to catch that very skinny rear wing of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. You can visibly see the difference in the aero levels of those two cars, and you see a much bigger profile on the rear wing. There's a good shot of it, of the Williams, and I think they might just be regretting that. There are 4 speed traps around this circuit, and Montoya doesn't appear in the top 6 of any of them. They're carrying too much rear wing on that Williams.
Yep, it's harming their straight line speed. The wing slows it down, creates a little bit more drag, but does tend to protect the rear tyres a little bit and give the driver a bit more stability under braking. But to make a pass, He's got to be close enough in the first place to launch one. At the moment, he's taking a couple of tenths a lap out of Michael Schumacher, another couple there. 1.6 now the margin. It's not for want of trying, though, on the part of Juan Montoya. Martin, just characterise for me the two drivers as you see them then. Michael Schumacher, obviously enormous experience. Montoya doesn't lack experience either over in the US. He certainly had plenty of that. But the way they go about their business in Formula One, the way they're approaching this race and this championship, how do you see them, the differences?
Well, I'd imagine Michael is slightly more approaching this slightly more technically probably than Juan Pablo Montoya, just from what you hear as they pass the Renault of Alonso, which has had a number of dramas. He's back in 13th, somewhat scarily. He did carry on with that car despite losing loads of bits from underneath it. So, but I think Juan Pablo Montoya is more of a seat-of-the-pants style driver, and he lets the team probably set the car up more for him and work out. I would imagine Michael's more closely involved in the weekend, the strategy and the general process of going Grand Prix racing. But I think Montoya, his style gives him the chance then to, it's like water off a duck's back, this pressure.
Nothing much choosing between them in speed.
Not at all. Different style, but same net result.
So Schumacher leading as we complete lap 27. You can see a super slow-mo of the cars cannoning off the chicanes. That's the kind of punishment they're taking every single lap of the 53 here at Monza. Montoya now just 1.3 behind with traffic they're approaching shortly. Barrichello, Raikkonen, Coulthard and Genet, the top six.
What great value this is. Schumacher versus Montoya for the race and the championship. Coming up on some traffic here. Juan has battled so hard to make up time on Michael at the front, and a lot of that time could be lost so quickly in this traffic, Neil.
Most certainly, and it doesn't take much of an interruption to take away your rhythm, affect you by a hundredth or two or a tenth or two, and it can really impact on the net gap between the cars. Equally, if you get a little toe like Montoya just got then, that can have a positive effect. Incidentally, Webber is in 10th position at the moment, inside a second from Frentzen. He's about 10 seconds adrift from being in the points, so just to intensify as Montoya rings the sound effects, that is, from Monza, and we'll restore those as soon as possible. But this battle between first and second continues to intensify as Montoya rings the neck of the Williams.
Ryan, interesting comments from Martin Brundle about just that, the fact that Montoya is driving completely differently. Watch when you look at these guys.
Yeah, well, I think Schumacher is definitely a lot more technical. He knows a lot more about setting up the car and stuff. But I think Montoya's just out there to wring the neck of his car, and you know, it looks like he's really doing that at the moment.
He's very good at that. He's a classic, Neil. He's made some comments over this course of this season which make you wonder sometimes. I know he's a bit blasé occasionally, but he sort of leaves it up to the crew and doesn't admit to knowing much at all about the car at times, does he?
No, he's kind of a shoulder shrugger sometimes, but by gee, he can drive hard.
Absolutely.
Keep in mind he's had 2 pole positions at this racetrack, and he was the winner in 2001. As we take you back to ITV, Martin and James for the Italian Grand Prix.
Lap 29 of 53 here at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Jos Verstappen there coasting into the pitch, but look how close Juan Montoya now is to the back of Michael Schumacher. He's clawed the gap down over the last few laps, and it's now under a second as they cross the line to begin lap 30. Verstappen, you see, in the pits, under braking there into the first chicane. Look how much Montoya is able to close up to the back of the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Then, as the Ferrari accelerates away, the gap grows again. A concertina effect. But I'll tell you something, these two guys are both absolutely on the limit. The World Championship is at stake. This race is at stake. So much is at stake, and they are flying.
Yes, when I said he's carrying too much rear wing, I didn't explain that properly. It's too much rear wing for a very good high top speed, but it's certainly helping him under braking, as we explained at the beginning of the programme. And now he's got the balance he wants. Now they were able to change that front wing at the pit stop. Montoya is attacking the racetrack. Michael can just about respond, but I haven't seen any sign of Schumacher getting ragged, have you? He's pushing hard, but he's not ragged at the moment. It's still Montoya looking the one working the hardest, but he's got the fastest car. Louise is down with Jenson Button.
Jenson, Jeff Willis has been keeping us updated on your gearbox problems as of race has been going on, but at what point did you realise it was going to become a terminal problem?
Well, as soon as you lose one gear, it's normally a problem. Because you start stripping the others as you go through the box, and I lost second gear, then first gear, which on this circuit is pretty difficult anyway, because you've got to do first gear in a second gear corner.